So this week I'm sat on my latest worktop that I fitted in my utility kitchen, and I'm so happy that it's pretty much done now. All I have to do is the tiling, but the hardest thing about this job, and it probably goes for every other kitchen out there, is planning and designing, particularly if you're in a very tight spot. And in my case, because we're in the conservatory, the units are actually taller than the windowsill. So I had to make some sacrifices, fit this lip here, cover a very awkward sort of space at the end. And last week I showed you how I fitted the joining strip. So that's why I didn't do that first, because this was loose. So I'm going to show you how I did it, and I'm just very happy how it worked out. So to get started, I wanted to tackle the protruding windowsill, and I couldn't do anything with this area, and I thought the best thing to do was just to cover it up and make it look integrated. And the first thing I did was remove the skirting board with a rubber mallet and a filling knife. Then I had to take out the spare freezer to get to the return piece of skirting, and that's because later I'll be using a board which has a lip to go around it. And I initially tried cutting the excess off with a multi-cutter, but it just wasn't working for me quick enough. I kept having to stop and start, and I decided a handsaw was so much better. Next, I wanted to work on my lip for the back of my worktop. And this was just to give it a finished look, so you couldn't totally see straight down to the windowsill. Again, it's a marble one which matches the rest of it. So I'm measuring it down to size. I think this was about 292 millimeters. Covered it with masking tape, marked it with a pencil, and cut it off with a fine-tooth handsaw. And now I'm trying to work out whether I want it sat on top of the worktop or behind the worktop. And I decided behind would be best. I wouldn't need to put any wood behind it, and I could cut it, and I thought it looked smarter. Then for the trickier part, because my windowsill has warped in the sun, I needed to measure the drop all the way across at different points, and then transfer those marks to the lip and drew a straight line matching them up. Bear in mind, this has also got masking tape on as well. So when I came to cut it with a jigsaw, it kept any chipping down to a minimum. The other thing I needed to do was cover the raw MDF edge on the far right, because you'd be able to see it through the window. And just like my edging strip video that I shared a few weeks ago, I had some spare. I held it against the side with some masking tape, drew around it from behind with a pencil, and cut it with some scissors. But when I came to use the contacted adhesive that I'd bought, it seemed to have gone off a little bit. So I'm trying to work it as best I can. And then pushed it into place, lining it up, and gently rubbed down all the sides with a rasp at a 45-degree angle. I'd also drawn lines of where my worktop would be, so I could pre-drill a few holes, and I'd drawn a line on the front so I knew exactly where to position it if it dropped slightly. And before screwing it into place, I went over it with some grab adhesive. And then probably the most awkward part of this job is having to use a screwdriver, not an electric screwdriver, to fix it from behind. And I was relieved I had a mini one as well. Now to adding the fascia on the end, I brushed over it with a PVA solution, that's just PVA glue and water mixed together, and left that to dry. That way, when I come to glue my fascia on, it should stick a lot better. And using a tape measure, I worked out the width and the height that I needed. And what I'll be using to cover it is this Uracell box end. I'll leave a link to it below, but it was £13 in store. It's actually £30 online. And it had two lips either side. I just needed the one. So after measuring it out, I started cutting that with a handsaw. And you'll see I've also clamped it down to my sawhorses. If you want to know how to make those, I'll leave a link to the video below. Now it's time to peel off the protective film. It's a very shiny plastic, so I thought it would match the white goods very well. And I applied grab adhesive all along the back, and then push that into place with the lip going around the wall. So I'm just jamming some cardboard in to get the very corner to sit back while the glue dries. Now back to the lip again, which is also a raw MDF finish, so I painted that white as well. So the next day everything has dried, and this is when I fitted the corner join trim. So again, I'll leave a link to that video below, and then I was able to create my corner and leave it. Oh, and in that video I also show you how I screwed the worktop down into place. But another video that will be coming very soon is how I cut these end panels to go in between my appliances and the end of my sink unit. And for the lip, I used a clear sealant, and I took a few people's advice from last week's video on spraying it with a solution of water and washing up liquid and going over it with the corner of a credit card. And this is definitely my favourite method from now on. But for the white fascia near the window, I did exactly the same with a white silicone. So I'm getting really close to the finishing line, which is so exciting. I've got to trim down some of the blinds over there. I'm going to show you how I fitted the kickboards very soon and the end panels in between the appliances and over at the end. And then I'm going to be working on the tiling. So as usual, if you do anything differently, feel free to comment below. If you liked it and you want to see more videos, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe. And hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Bye.